Okay, this is an important addendum or additional video to the other stuff that we've been recording. Um, what's important here is that we have a type of structure that shows, make sure I've got it. This is a little bit more intricate, although only a part of it. Whenever you see paper models that have these kinds of triangles, crenulations, things that you're supposed to cut like this and fold up, it generally is seen in an arc like this. You do not actually have to cut these as shown. The reason is that it's actually more difficult to handle something as small like this and bend them all up than it is to just leave them as they are on the paper, leave them flat. And then when the model is done, just cut them off. Of course, it depends where the items might be located. For instance, let's turn the model upside down. This is the floor of the top of this tower. Now, if those little triangle pieces were here, that would be a different story, because then using all of them may not be necessary, but perhaps just one there, here, and one in the middle. The rest you can cut off, so it's a lot easier to handle. The reason that those things exist is because generally, as I say, this is a curved structure. It's a curved wall. And after the model is done being set up, the portion of the model that is curved is this right here. So this model here is the one that's going to be curved. So this is the front of the tower, and it's a curved structure. The important thing to note here is that when you bend over all of these opposites and then bend them up, so you bend them over and then bend them up for these tabs, you glue these to this portion. You bend it, then glue it here. And for this one here, you bend this and then glue it on the opposite side. Obviously you can't see it, but you glue it on the opposite side of this and then put it in place, and I'll show you how that happens. But the important thing to note is that in our curved section right here, this is going to be a little difficult to curl this piece of the paper when this is already glued in place. So what you want to do is not glue this one until, or even never, this is curved. And to do the curve, you can either use your thumb to create the start of the curve, or just simply work it to be a curved structure just by holding it in your hand and curling it and curling it and curling it until it gets to be the proper shape. Or, as we've discovered, the size of the curl is about the size of this dowel. So we are going to curve the piece of paper around this dowel, so it would be something like this. You would curve it around the dowel, and you would hold it in place until the curl takes shape. It's a little bit hard. You can almost see it potentially warming up the paper in order to get that curve to be correct. But you could also do like I'm doing here. You can just curl it until it becomes a round, symmetrical shape, or a semicircular shape. What's important to note here is that right here, this has to be less tensile. The tensile strength of the paper, it prevents sometimes this contacting the edge of the opposite side of the artwork, because this is a part of the wall that we have to insert or glue. And this, if it's too springy, will make it harder to glue. So what you want to do is you just want to round this object and keep curling it until that paper maintains a curl shape. And I'm doing this before I cut it because it's a little bit easier to curl this in its current shape before being cut apart. And then, as you can see, it maintains somewhat of a curve or curl. And I'll show you as we go on how that is going to work. Okay, so what you're going to see now is that we've got our part of the structure that's curved, and we've kind of worked it into a less springy, reduced tensile strength of the paper. And we're working it to be prepared for a semicircular shape. Now, as I said before, the edge here is the concern because that has a tendency to continue to spring out. So you have to kind of put that curl just in that edge without creating the shape to look like just a series of hexagonal or sectional straights. You want it to be as it was designed, as the real object is, an absolutely perfect curve in the architecture. So you want to make it curved. You don't want to make it like just a series of shapes, straight lines or vertical bends in the curve. Now, the reason is you're going to match these up like this. So you want that edge to be kind of not so springy. So what's going to happen here is that we're going to glue it just like this. And that's what this tab will help us do. But the other thing to note is that in this particular case for this model, we can actually glue these walls, tabs to the walls, and help to reduce the springiness of it. So we can actually just glue that just like that and forget about this guy for now. So we can just spring him out, work that seam, weaken it, take the tensile strength away, and just glue these tabs in place. So just like making a box. Forget about the fact that these are glued in and everything and these tabs exist. Forget about those for now. We're just going to concentrate on gluing these guys and getting the edge here nice and straight. So we're just going to glue that like that. And yeah, it's hot glue, so there is a risk of being a little too hot on your fingers, but it only takes a couple of seconds to solidify. It's much better. That's why we use hot glue than any other type of adhesive. And the same is here. We're going to do the same over here. It doesn't need to be much. But it does need to be flat. Even though, as I said, we are going to glue this down to another substrate, but we do want that to be nice and flat. So we'll just hold it with our finger. It's a little warm. And let it dry. And now we're getting ready. See, here's our little shape. We're going to ignore those and just use that as a surface to put the bend on as it comes round. And then we're going to glue it just like that. We're going to not worry about this seam right here either. We're going to wait till later to do that. But this, we're going to get ready to now apply this glue and put this in place. So you've got your little box. And of course, you just practice the alignments. And don't worry about anything like this that's going to become the floor. Don't worry about that for now. Just concentrate on getting this guy. It doesn't have to be perfectly round yet because this guy here is going to force that shape. So let's go ahead and get that glue on there. And yes, you'll see there's no tab here. The designer probably could have put a tab there, but didn't want to because the visible tab would be on the inside here, and you don't want that to be visible. You want to hide these tabs whenever you can, so he left it, which is fine because we'll just use glue to put that seam together right there. Get that seam together. But we also want to be careful and make sure we get these edges properly lined up. Again, don't worry about the shape. Let that glue take hold. And don't worry about the tabs that are going to hold the roof, well, floor. Just let it dry and get ready to put that in place. It seems to be good. Now, we missed it a little bit. So we did miss it a little. And this, thank God, is our last one. So we did miss that. We'll have to paint that if it becomes too visible. And then we'll put the floor down right now. And we did mess up a little bit. I don't know if I can recover it. All right, I recovered it a little bit. Fortunately, the glue is already starting to dry, but I think I grabbed it enough to pull it into position. That was my mistake. I blame the fact that I'm trying to create a video doing this. The other ones came out very good. So these ones all came out really well. Again, we missed it a little bit here. We almost overshot this one. On this one here, we got pretty good. But also, you'll notice what we've done, what we've had to do is we've cut this too. We just cut the excess paper off. And in this case, again, this will probably be hidden by the wall. As you see, the wall goes here. The wall goes right here. So that might be hidden by the wall. But anyway, here we have an overshot as well, that little paper edge, which we can take off. I say that now, and I'll try it. Just take off a very small. Now you'll notice it also creates a white visible line because you cut the artwork and the white paper shows. So you want to be careful when you're cutting. Although you want to reduce that seam, you also don't want to create too much of a white, even though you're probably going to end up painting it. And here's where it helps to have a very sharp blade. So there we go. Next thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut this off. That's it.